Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final set of Edition 1 for Wrestling Republic Sold Separately Debut Edition. In this set, Clark Taylor and Anthony Ricciardi talk about an assortment of wrestling figures, including the upcoming Impact Wrestling figures, the Legends of Lucha Libre from Fanaticos Series 1, and a number of the Ringside Collectibles exclusives that they have to offer. If you missed the first and second set of this edition, please check them out as they cover a couple collections of WWE's figures and the newly started Powertown Wrestling set. Both episodes are worth the watch, with episode 1 also containing my apology surrounding the untimely arrival of this debut edition of the podcast. Now, on to the rest of this edition of the podcast.
Okay, wait. So, are we moving along? Next set, Kobe. You gonna image us here?
Ooh, here we go.
Now we're finally into my Luchas, who I tried to plug twice in the last 45 minutes.
Yes.
In the future, I'll be tighter on that, guys. That's on me. Yeah, no, we finally got the Lucha figures. We have one of my personal favorites from my childhood, the Juice, who's always loose, Hoovy. And then Penta El Cerro. Yeah, though, who also a huge fan of. I think they're both really excellent figures. To me, it's one of those ones that's kind of fascinating to me, though, because you do have Penta performing regularly in AEW. You have Hoovy performing regularly in AAA. And the rest of the series, it's split between where everybody is and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think they're a great set of figures. You have Taya, you have Phoenix. I think they're a really, really great set of figures. It's just not something I really saw coming. That was something I would say almost even, right? There was it seemed almost like the timing was odd.
Well, I mean, Lucha, Legends of Lucha have made a few figures now. I know they released a Penta and a Phoenix, and it came with like light tubes. It came with weapons. And again, that came out around the same time as their first AEW figures. I remember that because I debated which one to get. They ultimately got the AEW one. I find it interesting that, Ty is being made. She's technically an Impact at the moment. The Lucha Brothers are in AEW. I don't really know where the licensing comes in. I don't, because typically, at least for the Lucha Brothers, are under AEW contract. So I'm not sure exactly how. I'm assuming this is a pre-existing licensing agreement
Deal, yeah,
that they have, which allows them to do this. I don't know if it's through AAA. I don't know if it's directly through them. I don't know. I do think they're great I think they're great likenesses. I don't know how well they're made. I don't have any of the boss fight figures, so I don't really know. I think it's very cool that they've made Taya, to include a women's figure in this. Taya makes a lot of sense. A lot of mainstream US publicity. She's been in WWE shortly. She was an Impact. She's been around. Hoovy, technically a legend. He's a legend.
Juice.
The Juice is a legend, and that original version of Hoovy, as far as I know, this may be the first Hoovy figure. I don't even know if he had one in WCW, to be honest.
I do believe he did.
Okay.
I do believe he had a figure in WCW.
But that was, if they made it, was it after he lost the mask?
I believe it was not masked, is what I was getting to that.
Yeah.
I was like, I had to think for a second. I'm like, I can't remember if it was right before he got unmasked by Chris Jericho.
I don't think there's been a masked Hoovy mask.
I think it is a masked first for Hoovy, which is huge.
I mean, it's possible, and I don't want to say that it's never been made.
Did he ever even wrestle masked in WWE? Even though I know he wrestled in the Mexicals, but I don't think he ever wrestled masked in WWE.
When he was in the Mexicals, no. Psychosis got his mask back.
He did wrestle masked in WWE.
Okay. Psychosis did. Hoovy didn't. Okay. I don't think Hoovy's. Yeah, I don't. Unless he had figures specifically made in Mexico that I'm unaware of. I don't think. I don't. Let's put it this way. Hoovy hasn't had a lot of figures.
No.
I think that's the safe bet.
And this is a rock solid Hoovy figure too.
It is if you're a Hoovy fan, I think this figure's a must. The Lucha Brothers, again, AEW has ones.
That are excellent. I would say.
I mean, for me, I have never been a big fan of wrestling figures where they're just wearing a t-shirt. Like, I feel like that's. I mean, unless they're wrestling in just a t-shirt, I don't get
not many Hoovies. Not many Hoovies.
Not many.
Like I said, I don't get. Again, this falls in the same category as the Chase Boogie. Unless you're a completionist, I don't really see you needing these the Lucha Brothers, because I feel like the AEW ones are better in my opinion.
And I think it's also multiple sets of the AEW ones. Like, there's 2 better figures. Both members of the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah, and
in the AEW line than there are in this line, and that's not a knock on this whole line.
No,
I really love the Hoovy figure and the Taya figure, but I also thought that was a bit of not a throwaway, but it was a waste, only because of the nature of you can push somebody that is more exclusive to AAA or Lucha in Lucha Libre, Lucha, a more not. I mean, you're talking about they're the Lucha Brothers.
Yes.
And they're arguably the best in the world when it comes to that brand of professional
wrestling. The most
wrestling.
famous Lucha tag team going today.
Right this second. They're on their A games in their prime athletically, right? All of that doesn't go unnoticed, but there are guys sitting in AAA that you may be able to make a figure of that, to me, would make more sense, because you're competing against the figures like we talked about from AEW, from Jax or Jazzwares, from that makes it more complicated in the sense that I have no problem with the Penta figure just looking at this one, but I've seen too many better ones.
Well, and bear in mind, this Penta, I believe, is the same exact gear as the first AEW one, because I have it. It's the black and white gear, which is the real.
It's the original Penta.
Not the Lucha Brother t-shirt. To me, if I'm buying one, I'm more inclined to get the AEW version. Now, the AEW version has the tongue sticking out. This one doesn't. If you want a Penta figure, it's not a bad Penta, but I think there's other versions that, for me, for my money, if I'm going to spend money to buy a Penta figure, I'd put it on the other ones.
And I agree, and even with Phoenix too, right? I think Phoenix is an even more extreme example with the t-shirt, like you mentioned.
Yes.
And then not only that, like, I think both Phoenix figures from the AEW line are significantly better, right?
Yes.
Now, Penta with the outfit is always going to be an interesting action figure.
Yes.
Because of the nature of the connected, right? He's got the, even if he were to go right without the shirt part, he has more gear variation. Obviously with the mask, it's going to vary with both, but by comparison to Phoenix, that what I would say, and that's not Ray Phoenix is one of my favorite wrestlers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
He's
phenomenal.
Nothing short of outstanding. And but this would be the weakest link of this series for me.
Penta and Phoenix, but especially Penta, incredibly toyetic. Why we have not seen the Joker Penta yet?
That I'm fascinated by.
Now, I don't know if that falls into a weird Warner Brothers territory because they own the Joker. I don't know. Although I think it classifies as a parody. And considering
I think we're going to see it similar to the Dr. Britt Baker line, Anthony. That would be not to cut you off, but that line on the Supreme,
type of.
I think that if they're going to release that figure, it's going to be in that type of detail. where they
it probably will be a
package.
Supreme.
It's a real extreme, just because of the level of I mean that ring gear was more over than the match he wrestled.
There's a demand for that figure because that's the type of figure that I think not only would wrestling fans buy it, but diehard Batman Joker fans, especially if they're hardcore Joker fans, they may want that figure. I could be wrong.
No question. I mean, by the way, I'm not even trying to put you on the spot, but I was trying to like rack my brain, and I'm like, I know he wore it twice, but I can't remember who they wrestled.
Probably the Young Bucks, at least.
But once. I remember the gear.
Yeah, yes, but
I know the gear. Right? Yeah, and so that's kind of the point I was making. It was like there is something to that with that gear is so over. He wore it twice. I can't tell you which matches. And I know he wore it twice.
Everyone knew it was the Joker. Like you didn't have you didn't have to say it's Joker gear.
When it was a cool mask and he sold it, it was perfect.
The Joker's iconic, so it makes complete sense.
Totally. No, totally. I'm sorry. I didn't even mean to cut you off.
No.
We're so on the same page there. I'm like, I was getting fired up. I was like, No, but okay, Kobe, let's move along. Let's go next series. Let's go.
I think we have, was it one more or two?
We got one more thing to get to.
Oh, okay. The Impact.
And that's not even one more. Actually, we got a couple more.
We got a couple more. Yeah. No,
we're gonna go straight through. Why not? By the way, while we're hot, let's go Impact. Yes. So let's put it this way: with these mocks, I'm gonna take this one at first, and then I'm gonna let you go.
Yes.
I was not unimpressed. I'm an Impact fan. I like Impact Wrestling. Was not moved drastically by these, even compared to the Lucha ones.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the Juice figure, because of the Taya figure, I didn't think these were as good. Now, if you're a huge Moose fan, if you're a huge Eddie Edwards fan, totally get it. But I just thought from a figure perspective, they were not in my first choice. But let me hear your take there, Anthony.
Okay. The thing with Impact is, there have been many years since they've had figures. They've always inherited another promotion's tossed aside figure company. First, it was Marvel Toys, which was formerly Toy Biz. That when WCW got bought in 2001,
fiasco.
They lost. So 4 years later, they signed Impact. Then WWE kicks Jax to the side. So Jax picks up TNA's license, which the TNA Jax years is very underrated because they produced some phenomenal figures, but it just didn't get much play. Now, Moose, this is actually Moose's second figure. He had a figure toy company, Ring of Honor figure. Everyone else in this line, they've never had a figure before. So Eddie Edwards has been wrestling for 20 years. This is his first figure. And then who else? Who else do we have in the line? Jordan Grace, which is a nice touch. We don't know whether or not any of these people are coming with belts. We don't know accessories. We don't know much right now. Deanna.
That's where these images is where I'm most curious because that's where my opinion might change.
Yeah,
where I prefaced it, where I go, I'm not as excited, right, Anthony? Yeah. To your point. Now these mocks, okay, those look excellent, especially on Deanna, right? Those look outstanding. And when the figure comes there, my biggest issue is just the on the demand, right? It's just, it's not that I wouldn't be excited for them. I'm just wondering how high the demand is for Impact figures.
It's a shame. I don't know if I would have went with this set as series 1. I do like that they made Deanna.
And correct me if I'm wrong, not to cut you off, but doesn't it feel a little bit like a set catered to a hardcore fan that watches the product weekly more than a set that they could have almost led into a set that featured
To me, I would have thrown in. Now, granted, Eddie Edwards has been in Impact a long time. He's probably the longest tenured one not to leave at this point. Moose has been there for a while too.
I would say yes, but
I
would affirm both of those.
So I think making Deonna was a smart move, only for the fact that WWE or AEW may sign her at some point in the future, especially WWE.
I'm blown away that she hasn't actually, because of her in-ring work.
Yeah, I mean, the character that she created, the virtuosa, I'm a big fan of it. So I think it's a smart play to release her because, quite frankly, this is her first figure. So even if she got signed and Mattel or Jazzwares made a figure, it'll never be the first.
It'll never be the first. That's a very good point.
It's a smart move to do this.
Yes. And even Eddie Edwards to that same sentiment.
I mean,
because it's his first and deserved. But
it's surprising that no one signed Eddie up to this point. Like, no one made the call for Eddie, and Eddie's been very loyal to Impact. I give him credit for that. So to me, the virtuoso, she needs to come with the robe. Like, you can't just release her without it, because I think you lose something with that. I would like to see her come with the women's title. If she doesn't, then at least Jordan. Like, I think the first releases should come with belts if you're releasing
a belt. I couldn't agree more on that. I think the accessories is going to change my opinion on the series.
I want to see the actual mock-ups. I get this. You can't really. So anything that Clark and I say about this now is strictly based on the limited information that we have.
It's speculation.
Now, for me, I would love to see Motor City. Motor City was they had a couple jacks. I was really kind of
I'd have pre-ordered if that was on the docket.
Honestly, like, Motor City is one that I really would like to see a high-end figure, whether it's a Super 7, because they made the Good Brothers, they made the Major Brothers or Major Players or whatever, Cardona and Myers. Right. But I like to see a high-end.
The other figure show. Love those guys. Monster shout out, by the way. You guys are the best. That's why we do this.
Inspiration. But yeah, Deonna is the one. Deonna interests me a lot. And probably Eddie Edwards out of the four. Moose, I'm not super interested in. But like, I think Eddie Edwards has a lot of potential. I'm not crazy about the Moose face on at least the picture. I don't really think it looks like Moose. When you look at the two images, it doesn't really seem.
That's the most frustrating part. Is I think the coolest part about the Moose image here is, like, the Moose actual picture is more badass than the Moose figure.
Yeah, I feel like the Moose head sculpt looks more like Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury instead of Moose. But again, when we see the actual figure, it may look completely different.
100%.
But yeah, I think now the Eddie Edwards.
And it also, like, even the animated image of Eddie Edwards, I'm not even trying to pile on. Like, it's going to sound like I'm, like, not an Impact fan or whatever, but he does look like he's wearing capri pants more than normal.
I mean,
in the digital image.
I mean, the thing is, like,
capris.
The same way with Deonna, I said she needs the robe. I think Moose needs his robe. Eddie Edwards needs to have the jacket and the hat like he has in the image. Jordan Grace doesn't wear robes, so that wouldn't apply there. But, like, I think you need to make these things as authentic as you can.
Totally agree.
Although with Jordan, her look has changed significantly since this. I do like the fact on the packaging, I'm assuming it's going to be in the packaging because based on this image, that they're telling you specifically where the gear is from. I like that. I kind of wish WWE would do that.
I totally dig that aspect too. Actually, it's really cool.
Like that.
No, yes. I think that's very, very cool. We're very much on the same wavelength on that one. I think that's the brilliance of it too. And not only that, Jordynne Grace is awesome, and she does change the look so often. I think it'll be kind of cool because
you can do multiples. Yes.
Yeah, these figures we haven't fully seen yet, right? We've seen Mox, we've seen these. What it may look like if they come out looking amazing. I will, eat crow and deservedly so, and admit that I was wrong. Just so far, I haven't seen anything super special, but I will say there is something to not just the Jordynne Grace character, but what she could do as far as building figures with how often she changes her looks. We've touched on that subject earlier.
Yes.
And if this is an early subject where she gets on the board early and this figure comes out looking, real cool from like a look that we would both go look at and go, oh my gosh, that was what she wore at when she wrestled, whatever, right? Hypothetically. Then because I don't even necessarily know that they're going to be wearing the gear that they are in these particular images. And that's not a knock on the images themselves. That's what we have. But because of the fact that they're still in development, right? And Deanna as well. I think these are two women's figures that could really pop and be amazing. I just am only unsure on two things, just the demand and not just on the women's figure, just on Impact figures, period. And then I'm curious on the detail.
I mean, the thing is, we have no idea when these are coming out.
Right.
Presumably sometime in 23, I would presume, or at least we'll get more images of it. But I think, as far as the interest in Impact figures, it's kind of funny because, Clark, you know as well as I do, now it seems, the kid version of us would love this because it seems like every major wrestling company has figures being made. New Japan.
Oh yeah, given a time machine, I'd be losing my mind.
Impact's finally getting figures again.
To the article that Impact had posted, it just says coming to Shop Impact in 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. So
no time frame, no year frame, no range.
Chances are, if it's coming in 23, my guess is the latter half of the year would be my guess. I can't imagine this is coming anywhere within the first 6 months of 23, but we don't know. We'll see how far along this is. But yeah, I think that's it. It's interesting. I'm glad that they're finally getting figures again, but I kind of want to see. I don't think this is a bad choice for the first four.
Oh.
Just
jump in. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Honestly, because
I totally agree.
I agree, but at the same time, I'm also like, I don't know what four you could have. So
exactly. So to me, the top two is Eddie and Deanna's. I think Moose does take that last place of I don't think it's a good figure based on that image. If I had to say who would I go with, it would have either been if you had her for longer, I would have went for Mickie James. And then you would kind of, if you were going accessory based, you would kind of hope to say
it's not a bad idea just for the demand aspect.
You would try to go hardcore, like do it as her knockouts or hardcore country persona.
The thing is,
to replace Moose, I would have almost said Sami Callihan.
Well,
and that's interesting because of his contract status. Well, but Sami Callihan has been there not as long as Moose, but he's been there to an extent that he's one of the longer guys, and he's been there longer than the majority of the guys in the company right now.
I think
aside from like Eddie Edwards,
I think they went with figures. I think they went with people that haven't really had figures before. I know Moose technically has had one, which I don't think is available anymore because when
I don't think it is anymore.
Tony Khan with the Ring of Honor.
It does say out of stock. It does say out of stock when I search it on Google.
Well, no. What happened was, wrestling figure toy company. It may have been last December, or I may be wrong, but Tony cut the Ring of Honor figures off. Like at a certain date, they figure toy company was not allowed to sell any more figures with Ring of Honor on it, and Moose's figure was part of the Ring of Honor line. I don't know whether or not it was sold out before that, but I know like PCO got impacted by that, and he had just gotten his first figure. I don't think it was a great figure, unfortunately, because I originally wanted it, but it didn't come out well. But in my opinion, they all got cut, and I think that's because Tony wants Jazzwares, I guess, to make the Ring of Honor figures. That would be my guess. But I'm not opposed to Moose getting a figure. I'm not opposed to any of these people getting figures. I'm a little surprised they didn't throw in somebody, whether it be Gail Kim, whether it be the Motor City guys. I'm a little surprised they didn't throw a legend in there that they have under contract.
That's 100% a phenomenal call. The Gail Kim one, just to say it, that is a phenomenal call.
I mean, the Mickie James thing, I think there are a couple factors with that. She has a figure getting made. I forget which company it is. Somebody is making a Mickie James figure. She just advertised it like a week or two ago on her channel. I don't think it's a great likeness. I think the gear was supposed to be the Rumble gear that she wore. I wasn't crazy about it personally, but I think that needs to be a figure, to be honest. I think it needs. That would be a phenomenal figure, by the way. The Rumble gear with the belt. That would have been a phenomenal figure for Mickie James, but I think they went. I honestly think they went this. They tried to be diverse with it. I do like that they went with 2 guys and 2 women. They didn't do the forced, well, we'll throw in 1 woman. They evened it. It'll be interesting to see how it sells. I do find it interesting that the Impact's going to be selling it themselves. That it's not going through Ringside, I guess, at least preliminarily. Right. I don't think that's a bad move. I mean, Powertown went through their own website, but worked out a deal that High Spots, I believe, is fulfilling the orders. I think that's how they're doing it. But it's not a bad idea. I mean, you already have the infrastructure in place to ship stuff. So I don't think it's a bad move.
The only other figure that could have went, and I mean that's just because he recently came back. I think if you did a Bully Ray, it would work. But then again, like you said, it's not his first figure.
Yeah, I don't know if he's owned. I don't know if you can get away with that, but yeah,
you could get rid of You could get away with Bully Ray because of his run.
No. You could for that aspect. But what I was going to say is, I just don't know. Given all the other stuff,
exactly. Like that's where it's like the only other one I said is like if you're going current roster, Sami Callihan would have been a better choice than Moose. But since Sami could potentially be leaving, I don't see he's leaving, but his contract is expiring soon.
Callahan to me would be fascinating.
Personally,
Callahan's marketable because he got the leather jacket. You would have the baseball bat. Like that one would have been a better figure.
Well, I mean, honestly, Callahan's probably going to be a headliner for Series 2, assuming he stays. I mean, Moose had a phenomenal run as Impact champion. Like, I think it's very underrated. I think he really stepped into his own. So, like I said, I don't have a problem with Moose getting a figure. But
I totally get that.
So do we want to
move on to the next subject? No,
let's go
we got.
I think we have a few more. I think we have a couple more.
We got 2 more, and we're rolling. By the way, this is Ep1. So you're about to get a novel from us. And so what? By the way, what are you going to be mad about?
I'm sure we've broken up.
If somebody waited this long, you're breaking it up into chapters. You're on a road trip, and I hope you're sticking in here because we're gonna bring you all your figure needs, bring you all that stuff. And I'm just glad we're still here because we're freaking rolling. We're an hour 47 in, and we got the Owen Hart figure. And this one's interesting. Me and Anthony have talked about it off camera a ton.
Yes.
It's a fascinating figure. It is not the Owen Hart the two of us watching the WWE grew up watching necessarily. It really isn't. But I'll tell you what, it's grown on me, and we've talked about that too. It's grown on me since. It wasn't a must for me out of the gates. I ended up getting it. The novelty, and this is, I do not mean this like novelty, but the fact that an Owen Hart figure was released again in my lifetime was enough for me to absolutely be like, I really got to consider it. It's such a gem. Owen Hart's one of my all-time favorites. And it's something that I couldn't really fathom given the scenario with him in the WWE, the relationship between the family and the WWE in regards to what happened. I didn't think we'd get to see one again. And that's also part of the reason I had to get it. It's really hard to complain about an Owen Hart figure, right, Anthony?
No, I mean, this is.
But if I were to, it's just not the Owen Hart that you and I grew up with. It's not the pink and black.
We wanted pink and black. We wanted the black heart. We wanted like 98-ish Owen. Like that's kind of what we were looking at, 96, 98 Owen. That's what I think we were looking for. There has not been an Owen Hart figure since 1999 when the tragedy took place. We were well aware of the non-relationship that Owen's family has with WWE. At this point, I think the line was two figures that Jax was not allowed to make was Macho Man and Owen.
Yes.
We eventually got Mach with Mattel.
We got a couple matches,
but we've got and all of them have been phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. No, that wasn't a knock on the figures themselves. It's just we've got a couple.
And the reason they weren't being made was because of the heat between Mach and WWE and Owen's family, and that's why. There was no other reason why. We never thought we would get an Owen figure. So when they announced that AEW made the deal, for me, when I said, I wanted the Owen figure. When they announced this, Clark and I had this conversation. We weren't overly crazy with this. This figure kind of grew on us. The ringside, the ringside exclusive. The packaging is phenomenal. If you're only getting it just for the packaging, just to honor Owen, I don't think
that's
you're
the best part. I think of the whole thing. Yes, I couldn't agree more.
The initial head sculpt, the one with the glasses, to me screams more Johnny Lawrence from Karate Kid. Yeah. I personally prefer the alternate head. I think that looks more like Owen than this. Agree. I mean, not that it doesn't look like Owen.
I get a little William Zabka, a little Billy Zabka.
Yes, that's exactly. It's Johnny Lawrence. That's my first thought.
Yeah,
but
I can see the Zabka. I'm with you on that one.
It's Johnny Lawrence. And it doesn't help the fact that when they have released the images for this, I believe Cobra Kai the new season had just dropped. There was about to. But yeah, this is a great Owen. I'm sure there's going to be others. Whether or not we see the Owen that Clark and I want, I don't know, only because I don't know trademark-wise if WWE has...
I'm afraid on the gear that they maybe can't do it, and that's why they didn't.
That's my thought. We know for a fact there's no way they could do the Slammy gear because WWE owns Slammies.
Which would be my dream figure.
You're not getting Slammy Owen unless it's slightly edited and tweaked, and it's not going to be a real Slammy. It's not going to be... And it's a shame that WWE was never able to make the deal with the family to get fully licensed Owens with all the legitimate gear. But, we need an Owen. And Owen needed a figure. So that, I strongly suggest that if you're looking for an Owen figure, you can wait it out. Although I want to point out Ringside exclusives, they get sold for a long time. And then when they go out, they tend to go up in price. You could take a look at Wolfpack Ringside exclusive Sting.
It's one of the hardest ones. That would complete my Wolfpack, by the way, just so you know.
I mean, I got that one when it was on Ringside, and let's do this live. I will look.
I have freaking Nash, Hall.
I could tell you
Luger. I've got the whole Wolfpack except Sting.
That Sting mint on card right now, as of this recording, on eBay is $180.
No shit.
That's the Ringside exclusive. Loose out of the package is $150.
Woof.
Now, I've seen them higher than that. Somebody's got that Sting in package for $300 right now on eBay. So, I mean, just pointing out,
my little
not saying that this Owen's going to go up there, but this is the first Owen figure that we have gotten since 1999.
Absolutely. And that is a game changer. And not only that, the fact that they even released one in 99 is kind of wild, but it is that good. I'll say this about Owen. There is something just special about Owen Hart. And not to beat a dead horse, but getting an Owen figure at all, again, like you just said it in the 99 thing, I'm like, that's where my heart is on this. It's like, look, I loved Owen Hart, and even knowing everything I know now and learning about his story and how great he was, to honor his legacy with this figure is amazing. I just hope the next one is great too. And I hope they keep releasing them, and I hope they keep up with the Foundation stuff. I hope they keep up with everything in that regard. That this with the Owen Hart thing is in particular is just so cool, and that's one of the most fun things to me. Sorry, not to even. I know you're ready to go there, but I'm like, it's one of the most fun things about collectibles because it pulls on the heartstrings. It does all of that. But then even like we talked about, you and I thought about it. We had to sit, and then we got there and we're like, oh my god.
We ultimately bought it, yeah.
No, it's a must. It is. And it's like, what were we thinking? We're being too petty almost, and not like
too nitpicky about it.
Yeah. It was like, no, wait a minute. It's an Owen Hart figure.
Yes.
And
it's the first. It's the first. You got it.
It's not like a pulling on your heartstrings to sell it to you thing. It's we've been fans that long.
Yes.
And we really appreciate what Owen Hart gave all the way, not just gave, but still gives, as far as his legacy, his family, all of that, all those great things. And I borderline feel guilty about my initial perception on the figure because it's cooler, right? Than I could have fathomed, but like
in hand, the photos don't do it justice. In hand, it is a much nicer figure. In my opinion, I think it's a much nicer figure. I like the belt it comes with. I don't know if it's supposed to be a belt from Stampede or Japan. That I don't know.
I almost don't care. It's kind of cool.
No, but
I'm like curious about it.
It's a different belt. It's different, so it's kind of cool. Now, I am kind of curious. Side note on this before we wrap up Owen, we do know that he's supposed to be in Fight Forever. I kind of wonder whether or not it's this gear.
I gotta guess blue. It's got to be the Stampede gear. If it's not pink and black.
It could be the blue, and I think there is a red tight one coming out that I think is supposed to be mass produced,
which he wore a few times, the red tights for big matches.
But for me, in my opinion, the headband serious face is the superior head for the figure.
I couldn't agree more.
I think the smiling one, which is the one wearing the glasses, just in this photo, it doesn't have the glasses. It's a little creepy. It looks like Owen, but it's I like the more serious one. I think that's more genuine, real.
I do prefer the headband head mock, but yeah. On this one, I'm also like, yeah, I'm glad. It's funny because initially when it came out, I was like, wait, what? That's not the Owen. But then it was like, I really thought I'm glad we did this even on air too, because it's just like, we both had the same reaction. Like, wait a minute. What are we being so petty about the first Owen Hart figure in 23 years? Like, what are we doing here?
Yes.
And yeah, and that was an organic reaction from two lifelong wrestling fans. And so yeah, I you know what I mean? That was the way we that collect figures and love that stuff. And in that moment, I couldn't let us finish the conversation on Owen without mentioning that part of the story, even just because it was like, you know, I mean, even the stars I think on these are great. Blue gear next would be amazing to me. If they can get the pink and black singlet, now we're talking. But I mean, if they can't, I'm not mad.
They did make, and I have, which funny enough is in the graphic for sold separately, right above Clark. That is the blue and white micro brawler.
Yes,
that they made the gear, which was, by the way, that was not planned to point that out. But since Clark mentioned the blue and white, it made me think. But I think we have is the Mega Powers the next one we're talking about.
We got Mega Powers. We got 2 topics left. If we're gonna do a countdown for the audience, that's well, we're not live, so they're not still here. But if they're listening non-live, they would still be here technically then. Whoa.
So again, it's another Ringside exclusive. I think it's kind of cool they made the Mega Powers. For me personally, I have Macho figures. I have Hogan figures. This is not a must for me, so I did not buy this. I think both heads, the alternate heads, are kind of really weird in this set. The Macho with the tongue sticking out, and Clark and I have had this conversation.
Yeah, the tongue makes no sense.
I think he did it a couple times, maybe in the WCW run. I don't really remember him doing it a lot enough that you needed to immortalize it. The Hogan with the eyes closed makes
nonsensical
no sense at all.
Don't get it.
I mean, the thing is, I think this is a set that if you're a really big Mega Powers fan or a completionist for Macho and Hogan, or you just want to get it as a potential investment because it's a Ringside exclusive, maybe. I think there's been plenty of Machos. They all look great. This wasn't necessary. And this isn't a necessity for me. I don't think it's a necessity for Clark. Hogan, oddly enough, the closed eyes, even though it makes no sense to me, that may be the best likeness that Mattel's ever made of a Hogan figure. For me, and I had Kobe look this up, for me, I prefer the Storm Collectibles Hogans over anything Mattel has made so far with Hogan. I think it's a better likeness. I think the tan's better. Again, you're paying a premium for Storm Collectibles. However, for me, I prefer authenticity, and I think that's a much better figure than what Mattel has made. For me, as a collector.
So for me, it's even funnier. I'm obsessed with 2-packs. I loved them as a kid because it was like you get 2 figures for one.
Yes.
Right? And so I love 2-packs. Love them. I get them all. As many as I can, 2-packs wise. This is one I didn't really need. If I'm booking as a kid, I'm not teaming Hogan, and Mega Powers happened. It was great, but it wasn't even, and not only that, it's not even that they're bad figures, but it was just, it just isn't necessarily my taste. Now, the one thing that I did find interesting is I feel like in every picture I've seen, they had the same color knee pads. When they wrestle together,
different?
Why are Hogan's different? That would be not to double down and nitpick even further, but that was where I was like, huh?
Was Hogan's knee pads ever that dark though?
Well,
That's another thing too. Like
it looks like Hogan plays for USC and Macho plays for Arizona State. Like it's two different school colors, basically. And it looks like that in the box on every photo you see. It's not just like that's not like a color scheme issue on the picture, guys.
It's not a prototype issue. Yeah,
it's like they built it that way, and it's funny to me because like then you see the robe matches.
Yes,
right?
The robe matches. Yes.
Hogan didn't have maroon knee pads, did he? Like
no,
I don't think so. No,
I don't really recall, but I mean, I haven't seen the foot. I really haven't watched the footage.
I really do not think it was that much different. But while we're nitpicking, I did like that. Now, if I'm gonna compliment it, Macho's robe is excellent.
It's phenomenal.
It's outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, listen. They have yet to release a Macho, in my opinion, that has been. Why did they make
bad?
The Machos have always been spot on, and the Machos are another one where when they sell out, they typically go up in price. And it's the Machos especially. Like the first Macho, which I did not get, I kicked myself for not buying the WrestleMania 12 Macho, the one that he did, the one he legitimately showed off at a toy fair.
Right.
Like that was his. I think I think Macho would have made a WWE appearance if he would have lived, because I think that was the opening of the door. Then he was in the video games, and I think that was his. He was going to go home.
That was his avenue to do something content wise.
Yeah, he was going to do something. So I mean, it is a great set, especially if you grew up when they were doing this. I get why. For me,
why you'd want it.
I get it. I get it. I'm not, I say this now, 3 months from now, I may go, you know what, maybe I'll get it if they have a sale. Like
I hate to be that guy. The belt is the biggest reason to get it, though, more than anything else.
Oh yeah, the Winged Eagle belt, which
it's the Winged Eagle. It's the Winged Eagle, as
which Clark knows. I am a complete mark for the Winged Eagle, and
huge Winged Eagle fan myself. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
I mean, I personally have both. Those are but again, the Mega Powers, it's interesting. The one Macho, I've always wanted to see the orange robe Macho made in a figure, an Ultimate. I'm hoping gets the orange robe Macho, which oddly enough they've never made. I know they did a statue of it, but I don't believe they've ever made the orange robe into a figure. And that statue's super expensive.
The orange robe, that would have been the one to make.
I think the two you make is WrestleMania 3, which they have made, and the orange robe
multiple times.
The orange robe, that was 5, right, when he fought Hogan.
I believe so. Yeah.
Or was it the tournament? I think it was 5 though.
I think when he fought Hogan.
Yeah, that one. I think those are the two that I think of off the top of my head. But orange is
on March, no doubt.
The orange robe, I don't know why they've never made it. Other than a statue, they've never made it as far as I know. But anyway, so I think we have one more, right? One more figure we're covering.
Well, 3 more technically.
Oh, okay. Yes, these.
So this is the only one I don't have in hand, but it is on order. I'm stoked about it. The Excalibur figure, I love doing the commentary figures. I, as a kid, would have loved them.
Yes.
They didn't do it as much then. This is right up my alley. I really love this figure, and I don't want to bury the lead. But I've just been sitting on these things, sitting right next to me. And I want you to know, we've got Excalibur on the way, but I've got Schiavone and Jim Ross right here in the flesh for the audience to see both figures because I thought they were musts. And that's also why I invested in the Excalibur figure.
Well, you got to complete the set if you're going to get.
I wish they did Corey Graves. I wish they did on the Mattel side. I wish they did Michael Cole on a new one. I love the idea of these figures and the accessories. I know I just put these back. Now I set them down. Now my mic system is not helping me here, but you get the microphone, you get the chair with both. You get the chair with both these figures, right? And with the table, it just tickles me. The inner child in me, everything about it, it's perfect. I love the idea of the commentary figures.
I mean, that's one of the things I specifically remember as a kid. Again, they really didn't do the announcers very often. They did JR. JR got one. King, they never made it. As far as I know, back then during the Jack years, they really didn't make announcer King. Like, I remember I got the King because he came in a 2-pack with his son, Brian Christopher.
Remember that one?
That's how I got King.
Absolutely.
And that was the big thing. It was JR and the King. Like, I couldn't wait to get a King figure just so I could put him with JR. And to do, the announcer at ringside, that type of crap. So I do love the fact that they made these. The Excalibur mask looks great. I know we're going to get to the next ones. I don't have much to say about Excalibur, but let's go to the next
two. I just showed my JR and Schiavone that are already here. Yes. The Excalibur's great, but Schiavone is one of my favorite that I've got.
To me, the insane part, and Clark and I literally had this conversation just before we went on air.
Yes.
Over 2 hours ago at this point.
Yes, sir.
We are stunned. This is his first figure ever. Like, WCW did not make announcer figures. And again, it probably is the same reason that they don't make them. They don't think they're going to sell. They're going to be peg warmers. That's why WWE doesn't do them.
Right. Except for that, I want Bobby Heenan.
Well, we've had Bobby Heenan.
But I want commentary Heenan.
Bobby Heenan. Now, as far as I know, he's not under a WWE Legends deal. So in theory, Powertown might be able to work a deal with his widow.
That might be our best choice.
But and to me, if you're doing it, hear me out. I know we're talking about Powertown again. If you're doing it, it's got to be a 2-pack with Gorilla.
Yup.
It's got to be a 2-pack with
him
Gorilla.
And Monsoon. Yes,
it's got to be him and Monsoon. It's got to be.
Yes, but anyway, absolutely.
So Schiavone, the man's a legend. He's a Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW legend. Was in WWE for a very short time, only about a year, then went back. But he was the voice of WCW. Absolutely. He was the voice. Him and AEW gives him that second chance swan song, for him. I think it's great that he's finally got a figure. I think it's great. So, I don't know what more you want to add about Tony.
It's one of my favorite figures. I'm a huge Schiavone fan. I'm a baseball fan myself, so I love it. Even his minor league baseball work. I've been a Schiavone mark since I was a little kid. So I was stoked to get the figure, the glasses with the chair, everything. And my favorite part is, and this is so petty compared to like you gave the great analysis on the khakis and the blazer. It's iconic Schiavone. It's my favorite part of the figure. He's got the slacks and the blazer. It's not a suit because he's dapper. He's old school.
You could hear
old school dapper.
You could hear him yelling, "It's Sting!
It's Sting!" Yeah, it's perfect, and I love the figure for sure. That's why I bought it right away. I pre-ordered this one personally. Yeah. There's a little insight on that one. So let's go next graphic.
Yep. Okay, boom. Good old JR. Now, my first experience, and then probably Clark's too. The first JR figure, which I don't know if there were multiple ones in WWE. I know one. I
actually never owned it. I only think there was one though.
Yeah, and it's famous because of an insane misprint. He's wearing he was wearing the Raw is War jacket. And oddly enough, the name tag where the AEW thing is there, it's supposed to say Warzone. I don't know to this day how this typo happened.
Yep.
It literally says War Tony.
That's hilarious.
I don't understand how that happens at all. But
foreshadowing.
As a kid. By
the way, did you catch that, Anthony?
Yes, I know. Long-term storytelling. I almost said long-term storytelling. But honestly, as a kid, I'm marking out for this because of my name.
Of course.
And I'm going, that's phenomenal.
Yes.
You know, and JR and Clark and I have had this conversation. He is the greatest ring announcer of all time in professional wrestling. The man is a legend. When I got to meet him and had a photo with him and King at a convention, they were the voice that got me into professional wrestling. It was Undertaker that got me in, but JR and King were the voice of that era.
They were our storytellers. And I would even go on to add to that. So Jim Ross is my personal hero. The reason I want to stand behind a microphone like this is because of Jim Ross. I got an under the black hat right here that he signed to me. This figure was a must for me, period. And Anthony touched on it himself enough. He is the best to ever do it. And I don't want to debate anybody about it. This figure's freaking awesome. I was so hyped when I even got it. It's so cool. And Jim Ross is just, I can't say enough good things about Jim Ross. I'm going to sound like a super mark and whatever. Maybe I am for Jim Ross, and that's fine with me. So you can call me that all you'd like. Jim Ross is so great. This figure's awesome. I don't have a bad word about it. That's the best way I could sum it up. Real short and simple on that one. Cubby, what were you going to say? Or was that Anthony that was about to go? I couldn't tell.
No. I mean, honestly, I think it's great. You know, he's got the facial hair. He had no facial hair in the WWE era. So, I mean, if you had both figures, it really would be kind of cool seeing him in, you know.
The extra detail. Yeah, no, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. You're right. The goatee and it's gray too. It's really cool. It's very cool.
I think that's a nice touch. You know, I think it would be interesting if AEW wanted to release out of the Luminaires line an early JR, like a WCW JR that's real young. I think that's a possibility for them.
For sure. And the other thing I was going to say to add to your point, one of my favorite things is the simplicity in the picture on the side. We've talked a lot about the packaging.
Yes.
He's in the outfit. It's that JR.
Yes.
And the back, it's not the same. The back ain't the same, but I love the simplicity on this one. It
was a very smart move to release, you know, and that's the thing. Like, you look at somebody that's had as long a career as JR has, and this is only, to the best of our knowledge, his second figure, maybe third or fourth, maybe. I mean,
ever.
Realistically, the man's been in the business for decades. He's the voice of the past 30 to 40 years for wrestling fans.
100%.
You'll think about all the major moments in professional wrestling for the past 30 years. His voice, more likely than not, is tied to those moments. The last voice you heard on WCW Monday Nitro was JR.
Which is iconic, by the way. I always forget about that. That is such a great fact.
Bear in mind,
four others aside from this.
There's four total.
Well, okay. So, yeah, the War Zone and the War Tony I'm counting as two.
No, it's one figure code. They just corrected
then what? Right. Okay, so there's that. There's 2008 Jax JR.
Okay. There's
not familiar with that 2014 Mattel JR, which is a Build-A-Figure.
Oh, and then there's a Build-A-Figure, by the way, on like a Elite 40-something.
But yeah, so technically 3.
I forgot all about the JR one.
Now 4.
So that would be the 4th. Okay, so we were right. All right, so I mean, I'm not familiar with the other 2. I'd have to go and look those up.
The Build-A-Figure I forgot about. That one's unique. I mean, it's great. It's great that it exists, but I only know about that one because I will admit, like during that time, I wasn't collecting the same way that like I do now, and paying attention the same way. But the Build-A-Figure is interesting that Kobe brought that up. I actually forgot all about that one. That one is because it's a very prime, what you would think of as JR as like a hardcore fan as far as in the Attitude Era. And like,
okay. All right.
It's a very prime JR with the hat, black shirt, right? It's a button down, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But it's a rock solid figure for sure. I actually forgot about the Build-A-Figure one.
Okay.
Well, man, not to tease anything else, but we'll be building some figures on the next episode, by the way. Maybe
okay.
We're not the Voodoo Kin Mafia, but you might see a little Vince McMahon.
I don't remember that figure, but not a horrible likeness. Not the best, but not a horrible likeness.
Face scan was a struggle, but for a Build-A-Figure.
That's the War Tony. This I don't remember at all.
That I've never seen in my life.
Yeah, I mean, again, at that time I was not buying figures. So
well, and you can tell it's a Jax box because it's a bubble box. That's actually ironic that it's a Jax box.
Yeah.
Someone must have told someone to make JR look not as good as he does.
Well, I mean, honestly, the side of the box, he looks better than the figure in the box.
But the side of the box is a picture of the figure in the box. It's still bad.
But I'm just saying, does that?
It looks like a prank though on Jim Ross. Like that's just mean.
Well,
get this figure off the show.
Yeah, I mean,
stop dogging my guy like this. I'm kidding.
I mean, JR did get a micro brawler, so I mean that was a little something.
It's huge.
But I think I think this is a great figure. I don't think this is the last JR that we see from AEW. I could be wrong, but I would be shocked if this is the only one we see.
Totally agree.
I mean, unless he left, I think we may see at least one more. But I think this is. I like that they made the 3 announcers. I'm sure they're going to be making. They did make Taz. I think the announcer Taz version.
Okay, we didn't mention that one. Taz version. I'm excited about. I haven't gotten it yet, but that's one I'm really interested in.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be good. I think.
Yeah, we weren't planning on talking about that Taz, but we'll eventually probably talk about him. But
either way,
so I think JR the last one.
We hit the list. I was gonna say, you ready for sign off time?
Yeah.
So here's the deal. If you haven't by now and you stuck around this long and you haven't liked and subscribed yet, just like everybody else on YouTube, I'm going to tell you to do it. So if you haven't, not only that, if you could just text the link to all your friends and tell them to do it before they even watch it, that would be my ultimate. I would be most stoked about that. But in all seriousness, thanks for hanging with us. We'll be bringing more sold separately. We're going to be bringing tons of collectibles, not even just figures. We're going to be talking memorabilia and stuff for episode 1, the most important, the pilot, as they call it on television. And just wanted to say thank you to everybody that stuck around the entire time. And then not only that, there's a few other important things. Monster shout out Kobe Gonzowski for producing. Monster shout out Ben Allison for all he does for us at Wrestling Republic. Gotta shout out Ben A. And then, even more important than that, my boy Anthony Ricciardi. This has been in the docket for so long, and we've talked about it, and just stoked to be here. This is going to be a show that's going to be really fun. Like, And it was today, of course, as usual. But this first episode is real important to both of us. And I wanted to monster shout out my own co-host before I toss it to him to really send us off and give us the whatever he'd like to say before we go. But I wanted to say thank you for everything Anthony does and the type of year you've had, obviously, Anthony. You can go into whatever you like.
I
wanted to give you all love for this. Stoked that we could do this. So, Anthony, I'm going to toss it to you, and then we can send us home whenever you'd like.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching. I know it's been a long episode. We weren't really hadn't any idea how long this thing was going to go. Like Clark said, click, subscribe, notification, hit the bell, all that stuff. I want to thank Kobe, phenomenal producer as always. Clark, you were the person I wanted to do this show with. It's been a passion project. For me, this was something I very much wanted to do. It's been a very rough year for me. This is obviously dedicated to very important people to me. And I just want to thank everybody. We're hoping to do more with this. Don't know how quickly we'll roll around with another episode, but this is something that we're definitely intending to do more of. So I want to thank everybody for watching.
And just for some moments,
for my co-host, by the way,
some moments, just for some words. Yes, this is a long time in making. We are recording this because the Raw or the Christmas Raw is a clip show. So the next episode's coming, the next clip show. Kidding. Just in general, for more wrestling news, rumors, debates, and opinions, make sure to check out WrestlingRepublic.com along with Wrestling Republic on Instagram and on YouTube. Of course, you're seeing this on YouTube. And starting soon, we are going daily broadcasting and you'll see faces like mine, like Clark.
Tune into the Republic Daily Broadcast. Anthony, me, Kobe, like he said.
Yeah.
You get the whole crew. We're locked in.
Yeah. So anyway, those are our contractually obligated last lines. Thank you for watching.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.